One day I asked Neville, I said, Neville, why do you like me? And so he paused for a second and he looked at me and he said, don't ask me stupid questions. And I think that really describes Neville, where he lives in the moment, he lives a simple life, and I think he lives one of the most fulfilled lives of anyone I know. And so we're going to share some of the things that he does in his daily life, or doesn't even realize he's doing, that makes his life so damn interesting, so that you could do it for yourself. Being present. All of us heard that phrase. It's super annoying. I know all these yogis love to say it all the time, but last weekend I think Neville exemplified it. We were getting breakfast burritos, and I said, hey man, are you thinking about Austin? You looking forward to going back to Austin? And what'd you say?
I was like, I haven't even thought about it. I always say this. I actually think I'm really dumb. I don't know if that much stuff goes on inside of my head. And so that's when people are talking about, like, I live in the future, I have anxiety about this. I'm just like, what are you thinking about, Neville? I'm like, I don't think I'm thinking about anything. I don't think there's that much going on up there. And so I think, honestly, it's kind of like one of those, like, ignorance is bliss type of things. Like, you're thinking about, oh, I have to go back to Austin. What should I do? And I'm just not thinking about it. Now, here's the thing. I am thinking about it, and I do think about it, but I catch myself in those brain cycles, and I know that there's either going to be a positive outcome for this or a negative outcome for this. And I think we're old enough to know where those are going to go. So if you're like, man, I'm going to leave Malibu in this beautiful house and then hanging out with friends and stuff and go back to my normal life where I don't want to go or something like that. Well, if you think about that, what's that going to do? That's probably just going to make you sad. So I think it's useful in one sense, and that if something is making you sad, like where you live, perhaps that's your body's way of saying you should change it. The other thing is, like, are you just needlessly making yourself sad? And so I think a lot of people, especially kind of like, forgive me, but like in the woo-woo world, they will constantly try to make themselves sad as if there's some sort of epiphany happening each and every time. But in reality, I think some of these people are just making themselves really sad when they don't need to be.
So number 2, how to feel good. So I asked him, and he said, I don't like watching scary movies.
I've never liked watching scary movies because I don't want to be scared. Like, it's not an emotion I wish to have, right? So if I want to laugh, I'll watch something funny. So that's why I watch, like, Seinfeld, Family Guy, something silly sometimes like that. So I think if you're trying to be sad, yeah, watch sad movies all the time. If you're trying to stoke up a lot of drama with your friends, watch tons of reality TV. So whatever you consume, you will kind of enact out a little bit. So if I want to be happy, I watch a lot of happy stuff. I listen to a lot of happy, interesting podcasts. I read a lot of happy, interesting books.
Just fun. So I like that we wore these shirts. Why? Because it's just fun.
This is stupid.
So how do you think more people can have fun in their lives? Like, wear silly t-shirts, like, which is what you've always done for a long time.
So let's take a step back. Here's the way I think about it. So we know a lot about neural networks, computers. You can go look it up on YouTube, how they work. And basically a neural network, if you want to train it to get pictures of a dog, you show it millions of pictures of dogs, but then it can't do a cat. So you have to show it millions of pictures of a cat. Similarly, your brain is modeled on that, right? So if you watch and consume a lot of fun things, let me guess, the neural network in your brain will learn how to do a lot of fun and interesting things, and it will smile a lot. But if you expose it to a lot of death and sadness, I think, unfortunately, like police officers, firefighters, these types of people, first responders, see a lot of crazy stuff in their lives, and I think they're more susceptible to maybe have those bad thoughts.
And on that tip of just fun, what is your motto of life, which I want to add in here, which is amazing?
So the motto is good thoughts, good words, good deeds. Now, I just lifted that from our Zoroastrian faith. I'm Zoroastrian, a very small religion. It's the first monotheistic religion in the world.
Next up is how you learn. I think this is really interesting. A lot of times, Neville will quote something really smart to me, and then I listened to Joe Rogan podcast, and he totally stole it from that. Exactly. But I think one of the things is how you learn when you're listening to the Joe Rogan podcast or YouTube videos and all these things that I think people just don't consume in the same way you do.
I think it's crazy that we live in a time where you can sit in a room with Joe Rogan and Elon Musk talking for 3 hours, and you just get to watch that on your phone while you're taking a dump.
For free.
That's crazy to me. And the thing is, I'm stupid. I forget everything, right? So I write down everything in notes. So a long time ago, I filled up tons of notebooks with notes over the years, and they're kind of like my most prized possessions. In fact, I once lost one on a plane and I cried. And I normally don't cry. It was just so sad that I lost that piece of my brain that's just gone now. And so now I start taking notes in Apple Notes, Google Docs, all that kind of stuff. But taking notes on podcasts, which a lot of people don't do. And here's the thing, taking your own notes on it. So there's a place, I think, like podcastnotes.org has a lot of cool notes, but taking them yourself, pausing the podcast and taking a note on it, or pausing it in the car and telling Siri to take a note on it. I think that's really, really important, is how to remember stuff. And then I go back and review them every once in a while. I'm bored on a plane or something like that. And I feel like I have like this super brain because of those notes.
Neville, so I want to talk next about great relationships. So how can you have a great relationship with your friends, with your spouse, with yourself? One of the stories that we had recently was on Saturday, I got back from a bike ride and he told me to get ready really quickly, and I got ready really quickly, and he wasn't even ready. And then, so yes, I was being salty. Okay, I admit it. And I went outside and we were walking towards the car to drive to Jamie Foxx's house. I totally didn't name drop there, by the way.
Yeah. Nice.
And then Neville comes up to me and says,
I was like, yo, what's wrong? What's going on? Like, what's happening? Why are you acting like this? Why are you salty?
and then so I was able to share with him. He opened up the communication for me to say, hey, well, I'm feeling salty because of these two things.
Well, I thought you were being a dick, but then you thought I was being a dick. And so when you said why, I was like, what did I do to him? He came in late. So in my mind, he was late to come in. So we're waiting on him. So in my mind, he was wrong. But then he told me, he was just like, well, I shared a big win. And you were like, hey, get ready in like 5 minutes. And then I didn't get ready. So I have 2 strikes against him. So, and I was like, oh, that's correct. So then I realized, okay, he's allowed to be angry at me. So I was sitting in the backseat and I remember I was like, damn it, I'm kind of wrong. 50% wrong, not fully wrong, but 50% wrong. So I was like, okay, I'm glad we got that out. So I'm sure he's thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. And now once we get out of the car, we're fine again. So I don't like letting things fester in a relationship. If something's happening, or especially if it's with a good friend, I'm like, yo, what's this? Let's just bring it out. So I have a thing I call blurt mode. So a lot of my friends are just like, dude, you're so blunt sometimes. I'm like, but wouldn't you rather hear the truth and get it out and like get beyond that? And so I have a thing called blurt mode. When I'm thinking about it, I'm just like, look, why are you doing like this? And that just opens up the floodgates to like have this conversation, and then you can get over that mountain and get on with your life.
So next up is improving your feelings. This weekend on Saturday and Sunday, I was feeling a little lonely, a little sad, and I kind of just mentioned it to Neville, like, hey, I'm feeling this way.
The way I view like emotions and stuff like that is I view your brain as a machine. I mean, it is a machine. It's just a machine that reacts to stuff. And so there's a little tiny amount of like, I don't know, whatever chemical that's going on that can make you feel a certain way. And so instead of just being like, oh, I'm sad, what I always like to do is write it out. And I say, why am I sad? And a lot of times it's the stupidest thing. So if I'll go round and round in circles for 2 hours in bed, then I take out a scrap piece of paper, say, why am I sad? And you know what I'll write sometimes? I'll be like, oh, I drank too much the night before. I'm like, oh, I'm chemically hungover. I'm hungover. I'm not going to be happy on a hangover. So the answer on the paper, I'll be like, oh, I just have to drink a bunch of water and wait 2-3 hours and I'll feel better. So that makes me feel good that I know the reason that I'm sad. Whereas if you don't write it out, sometimes your brain will be like, why am I sad? Maybe I'm a bad person. Did I do something bad last night? And you just go down this weird spiral for no reason with no purpose. Instead, if you write it out, you can instantly tell why you're sad.
I think one of the other things that you said about improving your feelings is that when you are feeling sad or you are having some emotional response to something, it is your body trying to tell you something. Maybe it is you need more sleep. Maybe it is you drank too much. Or maybe it is like, hey, you're feeling lonely, so you do need to go find some people to not be lonely.
Yes, I think fear, like all these things are really good for you, right? So if you're feeling fear, why? Like what is the reason? Is your environment scary and you should get out? Like maybe your body's telling you, yo, this is not a good environment to be in. We should run. So I think you should listen to those and understand what is causing them rather than being like, I'm scared. I don't know why. It's anxiety. It's PTSD. Blame it on something else. You should try to always make sure you know what is causing it.
That's good. Creating your life or agent of change. I was in the house for 2 days, and then when Neville arrived, things started changing.
I call it building a nest. I think like you see a bird and it builds a nest, right? And I guess that's how it attracts a mate or something like that. But also it's how it becomes comfortable. So we're living in this house for like a month plus or whatever. So I'm just like, I want to make this awesome. So my room, I took the awesome room, but it didn't have a desk in it. So the other one did, and it's empty. So I stole the desk from that one and put it in that one. And then the rug was like in a weird way, and I wanted the desk to be on top of the rug. So I just moved the rug. And you were like, whoa, I can't believe you did that. I'm like, of course, why wouldn't I?
I think the real thing for you and for me that was inspiring for that is how do you make the life you want versus just accepting it in all different areas of your life?
Yeah, if something sucks around your house, change it. It's not that hard.
No matter if you're rich, poor, whatever it is, you can make that change, which is really awesome. All right, next up, how to eat happy, which I think is representative of almost everything we do in life. So we went out to this ice cream place in Malibu and got some ice cream. And when I got there, I was like looking at all the flavors. Obviously, I'm like, yo, I need samples of every single one here. So while I'm sampling it, Neville walks up.
Yeah, I was like, the first one, peanuts, done. It's just like it's the first one on the menu. How can it be? How can you go wrong?
So from Paradox of Choice by Barry Schwartz, phenomenal book, highly recommend. He follows the strategy of just pick the first one on the menu. But I think it's actually really representative of a lot of things in life where I don't know if I want the banana one or the cherry one, and then it actually doesn't make them as enjoyable. And so what's in your mind when you're making these decisions and the fact that you just chose one and you're just going to be happy with it? Like, how does that go?
I mean, I think usually at a restaurant or an ice cream parlor, everything's pretty good, right? It's not going to be like horrible for the most part. And if I find a flavor that's not that great, well, now I know a new piece of information about it. Right. So I'll often order, if we want a bunch of appetizers, I'll just be like, give me the first 5 on the menu. I don't care what it is. I like the discovery. It's kind of like AppSumo emails. You never know what you're going to find out. Ooh. Yeah. Nice plug.
So I think it's actually a very valuable lesson. So you think of it, hey, I'm just treating food, but I think it actually applies to like how we choose our mates, how we choose our work, how we're choosing our clothing, how we're buying different things, how we're choosing activities. And I think sometimes I know for myself, and that was what's inspiring for me, is like, I'm like, well, do I want this or do I want that? And the fact that you're just like, look, they're all going to be great pretty much no matter what. Maybe it's a little bit better or worse, but the fact that you just accepted it and just went with it, it almost made it easier and it made it more enjoyable.
Well, on the totem pole of importance in life, the flavor of my random Malibu country store gelato is not really high. Picking a mate, yeah, I might not be like, hey, you, let's get married. Like, that might not be the case. So I just think about how important is this? What are the odds that it's going to be god awful, right? Like, I bet if you try every flavor there, let me guess, they'll all be like pretty awesome, right?
I love you and thank you for inspiring me.
You're welcome. Thank you for the same.
That's it.